Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam class or Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. Every week I look forward to this discussion because I enjoy reading about Bhagavatam and preparing whatever I can for the class. I hope you also look forward to it and look forward to immersing yourself in the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. So as usual, before we get started, we'll start with the Mangalacharan prayers and then the invocation verses for Srimad Bhagavatam. So these Mangalacharan prayers are present in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada. So I'm going to share that so you can recite along with me. So you can see the screen hopefully. And we go to Bhagavad Gita and introduction, and I will scroll down as we go along. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Okay, now we will recite the invocation verses for Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the topics from Srimad Bhagavatam class, and today hopefully is the conclusion on this topic that we have been for a while on the disappearance of Lord Shri Krishna. So this is Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj and Suta Goswami, and then comes our three verses, or the invocation verse and the three verse. Feel free to unmute and recite, or whichever way you like. We will do lead and follow just for this Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Jaitam Narottamam Jayati Saraswati Vyasa Tato Jayam Mudiratam
Ashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shlokir Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki
Devaki Nandamaya Nandagopaskumaraya Govindaya
Namo Namaha.
Okay, thank you. Now you can all mute. So we are on this topic. So this is a topics class on Srimad Bhagavatam. So the current topic is the disappearance of Lord Shri Krishna. And today is our 5th week. So I was thinking, how come we, this is such a long topic and we have been spending 5 weeks. Today is the 5th week. But when I look at it, we covered 5 chapters in the Srimad Bhagavatam in 5 weeks. So chapter 14 and chapter 15 are from the first canto. And what happens in these? Just a quick, just the main theme of chapter 14, what happens in first canto? Anyone that remembers? I like to kind of make it more interactive. So
Sri Krishna does not want his clan to be coming up, so he is he subdues all his successors.
Okay, so that is revealed in little bit later. So chapter 14 specifically, if you remember, all the bad omens were being witnessed by Yudhishthir Maharaj. And Arjuna had gone to Dwarka to meet Lord Krishna, and he had not returned for a long time. And Yudhishthir Maharaj was wondering what's going on, and has some calamity struck. So that is what was there in chapter 14. And then chapter 15 is titled The Pandavas Retire Timely, where Arjun comes back and gives the bad news of the disappearance of Lord Shri Krishna. And the Pandavas then think that, okay, the time for us has also come to immerse our thoughts in Lord Shri Krishna and depart from this world. So they all depart, and taking the cue of Yudhishthir Maharaj, the remaining Pandavas, even Draupadi and others, they all depart and they enter the spiritual world. So that was chapter 14 and 15. So really the disappearance of Lord Krishna was only described as in the backdrop, in conversation. In Canto 11, then we come to the chapter 1 and chapter 30 and 31. And in these chapters, the actual pastime is described, where in chapter 1, the pastime of how the Brahmanas cursed the Yadu dynasty. So if you remember, the Brahman boys played a little trick. And so let me show you the picture. So, okay, by the way, these are the pictures of Arjun remembering all the pastimes of Lord Krishna and how Lord Krishna saved them all the time here from Durvasa Muni, and how he got the weapons from Lord Shiva, how Lord Krishna helped him in the war, and then finally the Pandavas retire. And if you see this picture, this is where the Brahman boys are playing a trick on the Yadu boys are playing a trick on the Brahmanas, and they have dressed up this boy Samba as a pregnant woman. And same picture in a different drawing is shown here. And then they get cursed that this, this boy dressed up as a girl will give birth to an iron club. And that will be the cause of the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. And then we discussed the position of the Yadus, who are the Yadus, and why did the Lord orchestrate this whole pastime of the curse. So we are here at this stage, and the Yadus get cursed. So, and then we discussed also that Ugrasen Maharaj advises them to to grind the club into powder and throw it in the ocean. And that whole, all the particles come back to the shore and they grow as iron canes or a weird kind of a species of plant that grows from these. And ultimately that will be the cause of the destruction of the Yadus, which we will see today. So that is what happened, and that's where the first chapter ended. And today we will hopefully cover chapters 29 and 30. So chapter 29 begins where Uddhav Gita ends. So Uddhav Gita is a very, very deep and very important part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Lord Krishna gives again the whole transcendental knowledge to Uddhavaji upon his request, because Lord Krishna is about to depart from this world. So Uddhavji asks, and Lord Krishna narrates the whole transcendental knowledge, which is known as Uddhav Gita, and that is covered from chapter 7 to 29. So how many chapters is that? 7 to 29. 23 chapters, right? So 23 chapters of Uddhav Gita are there. So Uddhav Gita has just finished in the previous chapter, and now we are in the 30th chapter. And at the end of narrating Uddhav Gita, Lord Krishna assigns a service to Uddhavji to go to Badrika Ashram, and then from there go to the spiritual world. So Uddhavji has departed, and Lord Krishna is going to depart as well. So, he's going to arrange this departure of the Yadus. So that's where this chapter number 30 starts. And Parikshit Maharaj asks Shukadev Goswami as to what did Lord Krishna do after the departure of Uddhavji to Badrika Ashram. And how did Lord Krishna depart from this world? And what happened after that? That whole pastime he's asking. So before we start the pastime, which will go pretty fast, I want to mention one philosophical point or a learning point from this whole chapter. And this has been explained in great detail by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. If you remember, I have shared earlier, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is one of the most important commentators in our Gaudiya Vaishnava. Not just a commentator, he's an acharya, and he is there in the disciplic succession that we have learned. And he has written extremely deep and voluminous commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Sarartha Darshini. And in that Sarartha Darshini commentaries, in this portion, he has described very nicely and very deeply on one particular aspect. And that particular aspect is the following. We will see here that Lord Krishna, and there are some references in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, that Lord Krishna leaves the body. So as if it is like he is a human and he's leaving his body, he's dying, so to say. Or it is mentioned that he gets hit by an arrow by a hunter named Jara. So these kind of things are mentioned, and he gives a very deep, almost it's a 10-page commentary on this one verse. If you are interested, you can go through it if you are able to find the Sarartha Darshini. On the 11th canto, 30th chapter, 5th verse. Very, very wonderful commentary he has written. And the reason for Lord's departure and the mechanism, or the whole, not mechanism, but the pastime of his departure, how it unfolds, he has given an insight. And this is because acharyas can see things that have happened beyond what is mentioned in the Bhagavatam. So due to their deep devotion, the Lord reveals extra details to our acharyas, and they document it in their commentaries, and we accept those commentaries as Shastra itself. So he writes that Kali, the person Kali personified, who is the representative, not the representative, but the personification of the Kali Yuga. So essentially, he's not a very nice person. Well, that's his duty, to spread Kali Yuga in the world. So he comes to meet Lord Krishna when Lord Krishna is present. And he says, when can I take charge of the earth? When can I spread my, so to say, my glories onto the earth? And Lord Krishna says, very directly, not till I'm here. You can do that after I depart. And till I am here, so there are supposed to be 4 legs of dharma. What are those 4 legs of dharma? The first
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha.
No, those are different. We are asking 4 legs of dharma. So those 4 aspects of dharma are tapa, shaucha, daya, and satyam.
Satyam.
So that means tapa means austerity, shaucham means cleanliness, daya means mercy, and satyam means truthfulness. These are the 4 considered to be the 4 legs of dharma. We will cover this at some time if when we come to another topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Kali. Parikshit Maharaj meets Kali, and in Kali Yuga, only 1 leg is remaining. The remaining 3 legs have been cut off. So only the leg of truthfulness or satyam is remaining. The other 3 legs are gone. So Lord Krishna says, because I am here, all the 4 legs have been restored. So in Satyuga, all 4 legs of dharma are there. Then in Treta Yuga, 1 leg is lost. Dwapar Yuga, 2 legs are lost. And Kali Yuga, 3 legs are lost. And by the end of Kali Yuga, all 4 legs are lost. So since we are in the beginning of Kali Yuga, Satyam or truthfulness is little bit still there, but it is declining very heavily. So Lord Krishna says, I have restored all 4 legs, but as soon as I depart, the remaining 3 legs will quickly disappear, and then you can take charge, and you can make the 4th leg also disappear through by propagating hypocrisy, quarrel, cheating, all these qualities of Kali Yuga you can propagate, and then all the 4th leg will also be lost. By the way, these 4 legs of Kali Yuga correspond to the 4 regulative principles that our acharyas have given us. So that is mentioned in another verse, the 38th verse. So these 4 legs are mentioned in the 24th verse, 1.17.24 in Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the 4 regulative principles that need to be followed are mentioned in 1.17.38. And the first regulative principle is that of no intoxication. So one should not use any intoxicating substances, alcohol, tobacco, etc. And that is related to austerity. So that is modern day austerity is to abstain from these intoxicants. So we are trying as devotees or as practicing devotees, we try to practice austerity by giving up intoxicants. So we try to rebuild that leg in our life of austerity, of tapa. Then the next leg is shaucham, or cleanliness. And that we build through not practicing any illicit connections outside of marriage. So that is cleanliness of the body and mind and heart as well. So we maintain that. The third one is daya, or mercy, and we practice mercy by no meat eating. So by not eating meat, we are practicing mercy in this Kali Yuga. And finally, truth, satyam, is related to gambling. So by not gambling, because in gambling you have to tell lies, and any kind of gambling, it's not just gambling in a casino, but there can be various kinds of gambling that where you have to manipulate and manipulate others by telling lies. So that is satyam. We practice no kind of gambling, and where our mind is peaceful, is calm and simple, and we don't have to remember who we told what. That's what happens when you tell lies. You have to remember what lies you told to whom and when, and then sometime or the other one is caught. So those relate to these. So I just wanted to mention this aspect. So the Lord says to Kali, you cannot make any progress till I am here. Once I go, then you can make progress. So that is one point. The other point I wanted to make is about Lord, quote unquote, appearing as if he is dying, as if he is a human. And this is Lord's way. He mentions it to Kali. And that's why this whole conversation of Kali is coming in, that I will do certain things which will make me look as if I am human, so that you can progress more quickly. This is very important. Okay, so that you, Kali, can make quicker progress, because then people will think Krishna is just a human and they will become godless. They will lose their faith in God. Because if Krishna is just a human, I am also a human, so why should I worship Krishna or any god? And therefore, Krishna says, I will help you by making it appear as if I am a human. So that is Lord's help to Kali to make sure that he is able to make quick progress in the Kali Yuga. Then Lord Krishna also reveals to Kali that after some time after I depart, a very great saint will come in this world by the name of Adi Shankaracharya. He is going to be an incarnation of Lord Shiva. I will request Lord Shiva to come as Shankaracharya, and he will spread the philosophy of Mayavadism. Though internally he will be fully aware of the reality, but his disciples will misinterpret his words, and he will let them misinterpret his words. And that way, that will be the beginning of the decline. So first he will put their faith in the impersonal aspects of the scriptures, and that will be the decline. Slowly people will completely give up the scriptures and they will become demoniac. The first step is Mayavadism, where one thinks I am equal to God, and he will say, I will start that by making myself look human. So I am human, you are human, everybody is human. So I am God, you are God, we are all at the same level. And then the Mayavadi philosophy will further establish this aspect, and slowly people will forget, okay, God may be God, but I am God. And that is the ultimate pride. That is the ultimate ahankar. I am above everyone else. And that is leads to demoniac behavior. Hiranyakashipu, that's all he wanted. He wanted to control the whole universe and make everybody worship him. That is the ultimate ahankar, that I am above everyone else. I am the enjoyer. Everybody should please me. Everybody's duty is to please me. My duty or my job is to enjoy. That is the ultimate ahankar. And then Lord Krishna also says that this is why the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita will be called as confidential scriptures, because there it will be revealed that I am the Supreme Lord and I do not have a human body. Like in 9.11, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Avajananti maam mudha manushim tanum ashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. That whoever thinks that I have taken the shelter of a human body, manushim tanum ashritam, they are avajananti maam mudha, they are mudhas, and they don't know my transcendental nature. So that's why he says these scriptures, the real scriptures, will become confidential because people will start believing in the other stuff. So he gives an example like a jaundice patient. To a jaundice patient, even a white conch shell looks yellow. The conch shell may be completely white, but a patient who is having jaundice, it will look as yellow. So in the same way, to a materialist, to a human being who is afflicted with materialism, the material disease, the Lord will appear as human. Just like white appears as yellow, the Lord will appear as human. So all this he describes, and he in fact gives the example, I am like the sun. I don't die. I just disappear, and then I will reappear again later. So the sun disappears and reappears. That is the correct understanding. So all this is explained, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives many, many references from the Vedas as well, from the Rig Veda, many Upanishads and Puranas, about his transcendental, the nature of his transcendental body, that his body is transcendental, it is not human. So I just wanted to mention that part, and then we can go into the discussion. Okay. So any questions so far? Any comments? Enjoying the story, everyone?
Prabhuji, why Kali is being, Krishna helps Kali?
That is the design of the material world, that it goes through these cycles and people get an opportunity to enjoy their desires. So there are many desires, and in Kali Yuga, it becomes more easy to enjoy those desires even in human life. Okay, if you want to go to a nightclub or casino, it may be very hard to do it in Satyuga. You won't even find one, but you will find easily in Kali Yuga. So even if you had that desire, it is not possible to fulfill that desire in a particular yuga, but in a different yuga, it may be possible to fulfill. So that is the reason. And plus another thing to remember is that even though Kali Yuga has all these bad qualities, the Lord reduces the bar even for bhakti. So to make progress in spiritual life, the bar is also low. So it is like, for weak students, sometimes the teacher sets the passing mark as low, so that, they know the student is weak. Fine, you can pass. Even you can pass, and we will make the cutoff lower. So Lord Krishna has made the cutoff lower as well in Kali Yuga. So we should not think that we are at a disadvantage. Actually, the net, the Shastra says net, we are at an advantage, because the cutoff has been reduced so much low that simply by chanting the name of the Lord, we can get liberated, which is very, very difficult in Satyuga. In Satyuga, you have to do so many spiritual practices, but with Kali Yuga, especially in the beginning part of Kali Yuga, things have not become so bad, but the standard for liberation has been lowered already. So we should make use of this Kali Yuga, perform the Sankirtan Yagya, and take total advantage while the cutoff is low. Behti Ganga mein haath dhone ka hai. Yes. Any other question?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Anyone else had a question? Okay, we will continue. So Parikshit Maharaj asks Shukadev Goswami, what happened after who is this? Uddhav ji left. So Uddhav ji has gone his own way. What did Lord Krishna do? So then Lord Krishna calls all the seniors, all the leaders of the Yadu dynasty. And let me stop sharing for some time and then I can resume. So Lord Krishna calls all the leaders of the Yadu dynasty and says that all these Kali Yuga is going to begin. And he doesn't tell that you're all going to die, because he's going to orchestrate that pastime, but he's saying that, take all the women, old children, all these other people to this one place known as Shankhodhara, and all the men, you come with me to Prabhas Kshetra. Now, if you remember, Prabhas Kshetra was the place where the curse was given, and that's where they had powdered the iron club and thrown. So that is the same place. So he takes them to Prabhas Kshetra. And then he says that the omens are bad. Some bad things are going to happen. So let us worship the Devatas. So Lord Krishna is demonstrating. So here again, Lord Krishna, this whole thing is to show that as if Lord Krishna is not the Supreme Lord. So he says we should worship the demigods, the Devatas, and like Lord Brahma and all, and do their abhishek. So they all do there, and the Yadus do the abhishek. They do worship of these demigods, etc. And they give charity to the Brahmanas. They do all those ritualistic activities upon the instructions of Lord Krishna. So after all that is over, now it is, so to say, prasadam time. After the main celebration and the main ceremony is done, now eat. And so they all had nice food and all that. And along with that, they had this one beverage called Maireya. So, which is like an intoxicant. So, Lord provided or allowed that to happen. And they all drank that beverage, and they became intoxicated. And again, right in the Bhagavatam, it is written according to the will or the providence of the Supreme Lord. So the Lord sanctioned it. So nothing happens without the Lord's sanction. So Lord sanctions all these events to happen. And by Lord's sanction, by his providence, they all became very intoxicated. They all became mad. And they began to feel very arrogant, and some kind of craziness entered their mind. And somehow or the other, quarrel started among them. So again, this is a learning, when we indulge in intoxication, this is the result. So we must stay away from any kind of intoxication. That's just a side learning. But again, in this case, it's not that Yadus are to, so to say, that as if they were alcoholics or of bad character, but the Lord arranged it in that way. And then they started fighting. They grabbed their weapons, bows, arrows, swords, all those things they grabbed, and they started fighting. And one sec. Yeah. And then they lost track of who's who. Who are they fighting against? And it is written in the Srimad Bhagavatam that they forgot all their relationships. Sons and fathers were fighting, brothers were fighting with brothers, nephews were fighting with uncles, grandsons were fighting with grandfathers, friends were fighting with friends. Like this, they all were fighting. And they violently attacked each other with these weapons. There are some names given also. Pradyumna is the son of Lord Krishna. So Pradyumna fought against Samba. Samba is that boy who they had dressed up. He is also one of the sons of Lord Krishna. So they fought. Akruraji was fighting, if you remember. Akruraji is from the Yadu dynasty. And so many, they were fighting against each other. Aniruddha was engaged in the fighting. Aniruddha is the son of Pradyumna, which means grandson of Lord Krishna. So all these Yadus, they started fighting with each other. Many other names are given. And they completely forgot who they are fighting against. And, just complete craziness took over them. And since they were so powerful, these weapons were not able to kill each other. So they were not able to kill each other with these arrows, bows, swords, and all that. And those swords and all got broken. The arrows got broken because their bodies were so strong. So then they thought, what should we fight with? So this is all happening near a beach. So then they saw these very strong canes or some like very sharp things coming out from the land. So they took those things, and those were the outgrowths of that powdered iron club. So they took those, and then they started fighting with each other, and then they started killing each other. They started dying. So again, the Yadus are not dying. The Yadus are eternal associates of the Lord. It is just appearance, or the Lord made it appear as if they are dying. And in their madness, and Lord Krishna was enacting, he was also playing a role. So he was trying to stop them, Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. And they even forgot who is Lord Krishna. The same Lord Krishna, just a little while back, they were obeying his instructions when he said, let us go away from here, from Dwaraka. Let us do the abhishek of the demigods. Let us perform the worship. They were completely surrendered. They didn't ask any questions. They just said yes. And those same people who were so surrendered to Lord Krishna, they started attacking Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. So I have let me share this nice picture drawn by devotees. Where it is? Yeah, this one. So you can see this. So you can see, so Lord Krishna was attacked. Lord Balaram was also attacked. And they also started fighting. Lord Krishna and Balaram also started killing the Yadus. So like this, all the Yadus over time, in this big battle, it is said that there were millions of these people, of Yadus. So big slaughter occurred, and they all were completely annihilated. And when they all were completely annihilated, then the Lord thought that, okay, my duty is done. All these people have departed to their respective positions, and now it is time for me to depart. So first, Lord Balaram ji departs. So it is written that this is the 26th verse of this chapter number 30 in the 11th canto, where Lord Balaram ji departs. He just focuses his mind on Lord Krishna and sits down in meditation, and fixing his mind completely on Lord Krishna, he merges into that thought. He just disappears. It's written, he merges himself within himself. So in that thought of Lord Krishna, he disappears. And he departs from this world, goes back to the spiritual world. Then now starts the pastime of the departure of Lord Krishna. So then Lord Krishna says, okay, time has come for me also to depart. So he sits down under a peepal tree. Nearby there is a peepal tree, and there he sits down. And then there is a beautiful description given in 5 verses, 28 to 32. Beautiful description of the Lord is given. So I would like somebody to read the English translation of this verse. Am I screen sharing? Okay. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam from our favorite Veda base, Canto 11, chapter number 30, verse number 28 to 32. So 5 verses are there, and I will not do, if there was time, we could have done Sanskrit, but I didn't make an announcement earlier. Could somebody read just that very beautiful verse, which is describing Lord Krishna sitting under the tree, all the beautiful forms and features of the Lord. I was searching for a picture like this of the Lord. Maybe I didn't find it, but very beautiful description. So this is, and such description of Lord Krishna has been given at multiple places in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is one of the places where it is given. So we can meditate, or when we think of the Lord, here is what we can think about. Pretty nice, very nectarian description is given. Okay, who would like to, and nicely, nicely read, like with some feeling. Who would like to do that?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, please. And that was?
Shri Devi.
Devi Mataji, please go ahead.
The Lord was exhibiting his brilliantly effulgent four-armed form, the radiance of which, just like a smokeless fire, dissipated the darkness in all directions. His complexion was the color of the dark blue cloud, and his effulgence the color of molten gold, and his all auspicious form before the mark of Srivastava. A beautiful smile graced his lotus face. Locks of dark blue hair adorned his head. His lotus eyes were very attractive, and his shark-shaped earrings glittered. He wore a pair of silken garments, an ornamental belt, the sacred thread, bracelets, and arm ornaments, along with a helmet, the Kaustuba jewel, necklaces, anklets, and other royal emblems. Encircling his body were flower garlands and his personal weapons in their embroidered forms. As he sat, he held his left foot with its lotus red sole upon his right thigh.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. Thank you so much. Okay, so that is the beautiful description of the Lord. So there is a picture, actually, I just want to show later, where this hunter would have shot the arrow, but this is not an accurate picture because it shows blood coming out, and there is no such reference in the Bhagavatam that blood was coming out. But still I picked it, but just you can see some description of the Lord, but yeah, this is not a very accurate picture, but still it is the best I could find. So we'll come to that one. Okay. So, but here from the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can see the description. Now, these are all scriptures that have been transferred through sound over the ages. So, there is only verses, there's no way to transmit images, JPEG files and PDF files. So there are no pictures, but very nice description has been given. So then this hunter by the name Jara, he shows up and he is trying to hunt for a deer. And that is why it is mentioned that the Lord was sitting with one foot on his thigh, like a cross-legged kind of like that. So that hunter saw the feet of the Lord and he mistook it for the deer's face. And he shot an arrow. And the arrow was made of that club, that last piece which could not be ground. That hunter had obtained that and he made an arrow head out of that. So using that arrow, so even that final curse of the Brahmanas was fulfilled. And that was used for making this arrow. Now, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur specifically points out in the purport of this verse number 33 that the arrow did not pierce the foot of the Lord at all. It just touched it and the arrow became purified. Because the arrow touched the Lord, the arrow became purified. Anything that touches the Lord becomes completely purified. So the arrow also became purified and that curse at this point was nullified or was over. But of course, by this time, the Yadus had already departed. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that Lord's body is made of Sat Chit Ananda. It is not made of matter. It is not made of the gunas, which are the fundamental building blocks of matter, which is Sattva, Raja, and Tama. Instead, it is made of Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Eternity, knowledge, and bliss. That is the constitution of the Lord's body. There is no blood, there's no question of piercing it or anything like that. And also he mentions there is no mention anywhere that an arrow was removed or anything like that. So the arrow simply touched and was purified. So seeing this, the hunter Jara got very frightened. Oh my God, I thought it is a deer And he recognizes Lord Krishna. And he said, oh my God, what have I done? I have committed such a big sin. And he fell down on the feet of the Lord and started repenting for his offense. Now, the offense was not because the arrow was shot. Even he was aware that the arrow is not shot, but his offense was that he fired the arrow. He fired, or he shot the arrow with that intention. So that was the offense. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur again describes, the Lord replies, this is not in the Bhagavatam, but he's describing in his commentary that Lord replies, I have not been hurt. Don't worry. You shot the arrow, but I was not hurt. So don't worry at all. Still, Jara continues to say that I am the most sinful person. I have committed this act out of ignorance. Please forgive me. And let me remember you, because constant remembrance of you will destroy my darkness. So, and he even says, Lord, please, you kill me right now. I have committed this grave offense. Why don't you kill me? And by your act of killing me, I will be, my sins will be removed. So please kill me, he says. Now, another point that is mentioned by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives a lot of insights into, various aspects of this pastime. So he says that such a big war had occurred here, where so many millions of Yadus had just been massacred by each other. What is a hunter doing at such a place? He should be far away. He should have ran away from there. And he knows that, a deer, which is a very simple animal, will also not be there. Because such a big war is, do you find like deer and all these, they would have run away. So why would he come looking for a deer? So all this is happening simply by the Lord's wishes. The Lord is wishing this to happen in this particular way, and that's why it is happening. Only the devotees can understand that this is Lord's wish. And for the materialist people, they will take all this as truth, and they will think whatever they have to think. And that will be the beginning of Kali Yuga. So it's all happening for one class of people. This is happening in the right way. For the devotees, he is giving the correct explanation so that the devotees can simply relish this as a pastime. Okay, just like a wonderful pastime. Lord Krishna even lifted the Govardhan hill. Materialist people will find it very hard. How can a little boy lift a hill? Okay, you can make up whatever you want. You can lift a hill, you can lift a mountain, you can, it's like a dream. You can do anything. You can fly, you can do whatever you want. It's all made up. That's how materialist people think. So there is no dearth. There is no limit to all the reasons that the materialist people will give to say that Krishna doesn't exist and it's all mythology, and you guys, all devotees, are all crazy. You are just believing some fairy tales. But those who have faith have full faith in the words of the Lord and in the words of the acharyas. So this is how, as devotees, as aspiring devotees, as devotees, faithful devotees, faith is the first step, adau shraddha. Then comes the next 8 steps of bhajan kriya, sadhu sangha, anartha nivritti, nishtha, and so on. So first step is faith. So those who have faith will take shelter of the commentaries of the acharyas and the confidential portions of the shastras. And that is what these are telling. So, and in fact, in the last verse of this chapter, we will see, I will show, the Lord himself says, all this is happening. You should not lose your faith in me. Lord says to this hunter, you should not, not to the hunter, to the his charioteer. You will see how the Lord departs. His charioteer's name is Daruka. So he tells Daruka, don't lose faith because of seeing all these things. All this is just an illusion that I am causing out of my own will. So he will himself say this in the Srimad Bhagavatam. You don't have to even, I mean, of course, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is explaining this nicely, but Lord Krishna himself says this. Okay, so like this, Jara asks for forgiveness, and Lord Krishna is very merciful. He says, "My dear Jara, don't worry. I have not been hurt. All this is happening because of my desire, and you please get up, and with my permission, you go to the spiritual world. Go to Vaikuntha." These are the exact words. Go to Vaikuntha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur directly says this. And in the verse also it is written, go to the spiritual world. So he sends Jara to the spiritual world. And the hunter, this Jara, circumambulated the Lord 3 times, bowed down to him, and an aeroplane appeared. A special aeroplane appeared. He sat down in the aeroplane. It's not like he just disappeared or anything. He sat down in the aeroplane, and with his body, in that same very body, he departed for the spiritual world, for Vaikuntha Lok. So this is what the Lord arranged for that hunter. And he departed. This is mentioned in verse number 40, that he left in this aeroplane. Then last 10 verses are remaining in this chapter. Lord's charioteer, his driver, arrives, Daruka, searching for the Lord. And all the very nice thing is mentioned here. How do devotees find the Lord? So these days, when I have to find my child, I use the Life 360 app. Where is he? So I look up, where is he? He's playing in this playground or that playground or whatever. The devotees of the Lord are able to find the Lord. They have their own Life 360 kind of app. That is the fragrance of the tulsi leaves. There is always tulsi leaf at the feet of the Lord. And the fragrance is so nice that the devotees of the Lord just go in the direction of the fragrance and they can find the Lord. So just a small aside, Daruka was able to find the Lord by pursuing or by going behind the fragrance of the wonderful tulsi leaves that are always at his lotus feet. So when he saw Lord Krishna and he saw this episode and saw that Lord Krishna is about to depart, he became very, very, very sad. And he's also a pure devotee of the Lord. He's the charioteer of the Lord. And the Lord is about to depart. So he says, okay, so, but the Lord says that I have some service for you. So you go to Dwarka and you tell everybody what has happened, that all the Yadus have been destroyed and everything. And all the residents of Dwarka should go with Arjuna to Indraprastha. So under Arjuna's care, they should all go to Indraprastha. That is the instruction. And then Dwarka will be submerged. It will be inundated in the ocean. So there is, of course, modern day Dwarka, but the real Dwarka has been submerged. And in fact, I heard there are some scientific studies that have occurred where they have done some deep water exploration and they have found some ruins. I don't know whether that is true or not or whatever, but the original city of Dwarka, where Lord Krishna was present, has been submerged in the ocean. Of course, there are a lot of temples in modern day Dwarka where we can go and still meditate on the Lord and his pastimes. That is wonderful. That's good. But the original Dwarka has been submerged according to the Bhagavatam. So anyway, so the chariot driver is about to leave. And then the Lord says, okay, the chariot, now everything related to the Lord is transcendental. Even Lord's chariot is transcendental. Everything inside the chariot is also transcendental. The horses, all those. So the Lord sends the chariot first to Vaikuntha. So the chariot just lifts up and just goes to Vaikuntha. And Daruka is just amazed. What is happening? My chariot, I'm the driver, not my chariot, but I was the driver all along. And this chariot is now just lifting up, been airlifted, so to say. So he feels very sad and happy, mixed feelings, and very astonished to see this. And then Daruka takes leave and He circumambulates the Lord, he pays his obeisances. And then in the 49th verse, I will show what the Lord says to Daruka. So we will go to the 49th verse of the 30th chapter of the 11th canto. So this is the same chapter, one of the second last verse. Lord Krishna says, oh, I'm not sharing. Sorry. Maybe somebody can read this verse, short verse.
Let me read, Prabhuji.
Sure, Mataji, please.
You, Daruka, should be firmly situated in devotion to me, remaining fixed in spiritual knowledge and unattached to material considerations. Understanding these pastimes to be a display of my illusory potency, you should remain peaceful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mataji. So here, Lord Krishna is directly telling Daruka that remain fixed in devotion to me. You should not lose your devotion, unlike the materialist people who will read some of these pastimes in their own color. You know, they will see whatever they want to see. Like the example was mentioned of a jaundice patient. Everything looks yellow. Even a white thing looks yellow. So that's the problem. That's their disease. But you should remain fixed in devotion to me, understanding that these pastimes are simply a display of my illusory potency, my yogamaya. And I'm making it happen in this way. And that's how you will get peace in your mind. So then Daruka circumambulated the Lord, paid his obeisances, and with a very sad heart, he left for Dwarka city to carry out the message, to deliver the message of the Lord. Okay. So, wait, so I didn't show this. Yeah, so we saw this picture. This will come later. So this is the picture of the Jara hunter and talking to Lord Krishna. Again, some inaccuracies are there because of the blood and all. But anyway, this is the best I could find that Google gave me. So, okay. So now we go into the next chapter, which is the 31st. Oh, am I sharing? No, I was speaking while sharing, or not sharing. So this is that picture of Jara hunter. Okay, so now we transition into the 31st chapter, which is the last chapter of the 12th canto. So Srimad Bhagavatam is almost wrapping up. In just another few chapters of the 12th canto, Sukadev Goswami will finish his description of Srimad Bhagavatam. He will depart, and very soon Parikshit Maharaj will also depart. So we are almost that this is the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But again, we will circle back and do more discussions. So now the Lord is about to depart to his abode. And this is very, very wonderfully described in the last chapter. So this 31st chapter, the main topic is the disappearance or the sort of the going back of Lord Krishna to his abode. So let me just show that picture, and I will, we can discuss read from the Srimad Bhagavatam as we are looking at this wonderful picture. So here you can see all Devis, Devatas. Who is this one on the elephant? This person.
Indra.
Yeah. Who is this person on the bull?
Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva, that is Nandi bull. Who is this on the swan?
Brahma.
Brahma.
Yes, Brahmaji.
Brahma.
Brahmaji's carrier or his vehicle is the swan. If you remember when Brahmaji had stolen the boys and the calves, the cowherd boys and calves, then he was on his swan and he was trying to see what happened. He stole all these boys, but they are still there. So that time he was on the swan. So his carrier is the swan. So anyway, when Lord Krishna is departing, and if you remember, who invited Lord Krishna to the earth planet? Again, for those who have studied or read a little bit, remember the 10th canto.
Mother Bhumi.
Mother Bhumi, very correct. Who did she go to? Ultimately, who extended that invitation to Lord Narayana? There was an intermediary.
Hello.
Lord Brahma?
Lord Brahma.
Yes, Lord Brahma. Very nice. So ultimately, the job was given to Lord Brahma to communicate with Lord Narayana that there is too much burden of demons on the earth. Please come and reduce this burden. So Lord Brahma carries the message. So Lord Brahma is, the one who ultimately many devotees are involved, but Lord Brahma was definitely also one of the one who was involved in causing or inviting Lord Krishna to appear. So when Lord Krishna is about to disappear, they have all come, all these wonderful, great personalities have come to see off, to witness the departure of the Lord. So it is mentioned that Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, along with Mother Parvati, she's not shown in the picture here for some reason, but it is mentioned in Lord Shiva, along with Mother Parvati, the great sages, the Prajapatis, all the Devis and Devatas headed by Indra, the Siddhas, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, Yakshas, even some of the Rakshasas, the devotee Rakshasas. There are many Rakshasas who are of the Rakshasa category, but they are devotees. Anybody can recall a Rakshasa who is a devotee? Famous, come on.
Prahalada. Prahalada.
Yes, Bali Maharaj and Prahalad, both of them are wonderful examples. Any other example comes to mind? Now the question is
Vibhishan.
Vitrasura.
Yeah, Vibhishan.
Vibhishan, very good. And then Vritrasura.
Ravana.
Yes.
Ravana, sir.
Huh?
Ravana, sir.
Ravana?
Ravana.
Not Ravana. Okay. So, so all these wonderful personalities appeared to witness the departure of the Lord. And as the Lord, was about to depart, these personalities were wonderfully chanting and glorifying the activities and pastimes of the Lord. So they were bidding farewell to the Lord by loud chanting and glorification of the Lord and his pastimes. It is written that the sky was crowded, was completely full with all kinds of aeroplanes and various personalities coming in their various vehicles. The sky was full of all these personalities, and they were showering flowers on the Lord. So very nicely, they were all seeing off the Lord. It's Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions some of them were even trying that, okay, because they have come from their own planets. Now, Lord Krishna was present on the earth planet in this universe, but he is going to the spiritual world. Some of them were thinking, maybe I can, influence Lord Krishna to make a quick stopover into my planet before he departs. So they were having these kind of feelings as well, that, maybe I can, convince the Lord to quickly, make a quick stopover and all that. So very nice feelings they were having towards the Lord. And then, but the Lord disappeared. He ascended into the sky in his very same spiritual body. And as he was ascending and departing from the material world, all the demigods had no clue where he went, because they only know everything about the material world. They have very few of them have knowledge of the spiritual world. Even the Devis, the demigods, do not have an understanding of what the spiritual world is. So they didn't have a clue where the Lord went, except for a few of the personalities like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, etc. Then it is mentioned that as soon as Lord Krishna left the planet, truth, religion, faithfulness, glory, and beauty immediately followed him. They also left from this world. So the world was all set for Kali Yuga to arrive. Now the scene switches to Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So now the disappearance of Lord Krishna has occurred. Lord Krishna is gone back to his abode. And now what happens on the Earth planet will be described over here. What else happened? So before that, Shukdev Goswami explains again in his own way that it is not that the Lord passed away or he had a body or anything. He is the Supreme Lord. So he's again confirming to all of us that we should not misunderstand the disappearance. The Lord brought back the dead son of Sandipani Muni. Hopefully we will cover that pastime sometime. Sandipani Muni was the teacher of Lord Krishna. After killing Kamsa, Lord Krishna went to the ashram of Sandipani Muni in the Gurukul, and there he got instructions from Sandipani Muni. And as Guru Dakshina, Sandipani Muni's son had been captured by a demon and killed. So as Guru Dakshina, he brings back the dead son alive and gives him to Sandipani Muni. So he can bring back people from death. Shukdev Goswami says he saved you when you were in the womb of your mother from the Brahmastra. You remember that, he says. And he brought back his other 6 siblings also, whom Kamsa had killed. And so many things. So one should never think that the Lord is under the spell of material powers like death. He is beyond those. And so one should not misunderstand this pastime of the disappearance of the Lord. So then Daruka, he reaches Dwarka and he conveys the news, and all the older people, the seniors like Ugrasen and the parents of Lord Krishna, Vasudev and Devaki and Mother Rohini, they all got the news that Lord Krishna has disappeared. And he also gave the news of the complete destruction of the Yadus. So they all became very sad, and they also disappeared and departed to the spiritual world. They are all associates of the Lord, and they gave up their existence and they ended their pastimes. So basically we will see a whole bunch of personalities now ending their pastimes. So first, Ugrasen Maharaj, Vasudev ji, Mother Devaki, Mother Rohini, they all depart. Then the wives of all the Yadus, they all, many of them depart. And then the wife of Lord Balaramji, she departs. All the daughters-in-law of Lord Krishna, they depart. The wives of Lord Krishna, many of them, definitely including Mother Rukmini's name is given, and other wives, they depart. So like this, they all begin departing. And Arjuna was also there when Daruka brought this news. Now, this connects back to the first story or the first narration that we had, that Arjuna had gone to Dwarka, and Yudhishthir Maharaj was wondering why is he so late, why he has not come back. So Arjuna is also there, and he also sees. But he is also very sad, very, very devastated by the news of departure of Lord Krishna. But he consoles himself. How does he console himself? Anybody remembers? We had discussed this in that chapter. What did Arjuna use to console himself?
Instructions of the God.
Yes, instructions.
Remembering.
Given in the battlefield, Bhagavad Gita. So he recalls the Bhagavad Gita, and he is able to console himself. And he gathers himself, and he performs the last rites. So many of the those that departed, their bodies were left here. They all didn't depart with their bodies. They left their bodies. So he performed the last rites for all those who had left their bodies here. And then he takes the remaining family members and leaves for Indraprastha. And then a big sort of a tsunami comes and submerges Dwarka. And it is said only the palace of Lord Krishna is left. So, but we don't know modern day whether that palace is there or not. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that the palace exists in its unmanifest form. So we cannot perceive its existence with our material eyes, but it is still there. And that is a existence of the unmanifest form of the Lord's body. So Lord and Lord's palace are no different from each other. They are all spiritual. So there is no difference between the Lord and his paraphernalia, because they are all at a spiritual level. So in the unmanifest form, his palace is still there. That is what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes. And otherwise, the rest of Dwarka gets submerged. And then Arjuna brings back the remaining descendants, and the chief among them is Vajranabha. So Vajranabha is the son of Aniruddha, or the great grandson, and Aniruddha is the grandson of Lord Krishna. So he is the great grandson of Lord Krishna. And Arjuna installs Vajranabha as the king of Mathura. Then now the story takes a complete circle, and Arjuna comes back to Indraprastha. He narrates what all happened to his brothers. Yudhishthir Maharaj also becomes heartbroken, and he decides to retire. So he puts Vajranabha as the king of Mathura. He installs Parikshit. Shukdev Goswami is saying he installed you, Parikshit, as the king of Indraprastha, and basically the emperor of the whole earth of Bharatavarsha. And then he retires, and then we know what happened. All the Pandavas retire and everything. So like this, we should all leave the world. So there is a very, very nice verse that two verses, the last two verses of this chapter, and also the last two verses of the 11th canto. So let's read them. So this will be the next chapter. Am I sharing? No. Okay, let me share. Okay, so this is Canto 11 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 31st chapter, last two verses. So would anybody like to read the translation of these two verses?
Let me read if nobody is willing.
Let me see, Mataji, if anybody else is there, because you already read. So let's give.
I can read.
I can read.
Okay, who said? Kalyani Mataji, I think you said?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm fine if anybody wants.
Somebody else also said?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
So Medha, so one of you can just read one each.
Okay.
Go ahead, Medha Mataji.
Okay. A person who with faith engages in chanting the glories of these various pastimes and incarnations of Vishnu, the Lord of Lords, will gain liberation from all sins.
So basically, thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So we must always spend a lot of our time, all the time, but again, in Kali Yuga, as much as possible, time in remembering the Lord, his pastimes, his forms, his instructions, his names. We must spend time doing that. That is exactly what is written here. A person who with faith engages in chanting the glories of these various pastimes. So here specifically the pastime of the disappearance is being mentioned, but this holds for all the pastimes of the Lord of Lords, which is Lord Vishnu, will gain liberation from all sins. Okay, last verse, Kalyani Mataji.
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji. The all auspicious exploits of the all attractive incarnations of Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and also the pastimes he performed as a child are described in this Srimad Bhagavatam and in other scriptures. Anyone who clearly chants these descriptions of his pastimes will attain transcendental loving service unto Lord Sri Krishna, who is the goal of all perfect sages. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So the instruction, same instruction that we should, this is very, very nice, very devotional to hear these pastimes of the Lord. It opens up our heart towards devotion towards the Lord. It opens up our devotion, our consciousness towards the Lord, and it by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can make very quick progress on our devotional life. That is, in fact, the meaning of this verse that we recite, that Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shlokir bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. That by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised within the transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, this love for God, for Lord Krishna, can be established. So it's not because these are nice stories about the Lord. And if you heard stories about Harry Potter, love for Harry Potter would be installed in your heart. That is not the case. It's not a general statement that whosever story you hear, love for that person will be installed. That is only true to a certain minimal extent. Yes, if you hear too much about it, you develop an attraction to that. But Srimad Bhagavatam has very, very special devotional potency, spiritual potency. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, truly at an exponential level, very deep love for the Lord is established in the heart. So with that, we'll conclude this pastime of the disappearance of Lord Krishna. And I request all of you, as much as possible, to read Srimad Bhagavatam. These days, it is not possible to serve a pure devotee because of COVID and all. There is, devotees and like there's no personal interaction. So what to speak of service? But at least we can serve Srila Prabhupada by reading all these wonderful things he has left. He didn't write all these things just so that it can sit on the shelf. He wrote it so people so many years later can also read. So let us read Srimad Bhagavatam regularly. And, this our Saturday gathering is just a small means to provide that impetus or that inspiration so that we can do this during the whole week as well. So as we have said, please take out some time every day in your life to spend on japa, on your chanting, and reading Srimad Bhagavatam. You can divide it as you like. There are no clear, hard and fast rules, but you must spend some time reading Srimad Bhagavatam on a regular basis. Regular can mean every day. Regular can mean weekends. Regular can mean whatever you make it mean as regular, but it has to be regular. Whatever you can call as regular cannot be, irregular. You know what I mean. So, yeah. Okay, so that's the end. It is 7:20 right now. Are there any discussions, questions, comments, corrections? We can discuss those.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, Mataji.
This is Kalyani. Yeah, I heard that Jara was in his previous birth. Is he Vali, whom Lord Rama killed? I heard like that, so just wanted to confirm.
I have also heard that, but again, I tried to find it in the commentaries of Acharyas. I could not. So maybe it has been written by other Acharyas. So we need to be a little bit careful between what we find on Google and internet and try to corroborate it with commentaries from Acharyas. So maybe it is true. I don't deny that. And my memory is also not very good. So, but I have also heard the exact same thing. But as I was preparing for this class, I didn't find such a reference in at least whatever short time I had. I was actually looking for that. I knew somebody would ask it. And not only that, I was myself curious. So yes, that's how much I can say. If any other devotees remember a reference from previous acharyas, writings and all, please feel free to chime in.
Prabhuji, with your permission, I just want to add something. I mean, I haven't read any book, but I was listening to Amarendra Prabhu's one of the videos, and he did mention in one of the video that Jara is a Vali in Treta Yuga, and in that pastime, after Lord Rama, killed Vali, because Lord Rama was standing behind a tree to kill Vali.
Yeah.
So Vali, asked Sri Rama, you're such a great warrior. Why did you have to stand behind a tree to kill me? And Sri Rama said that I'm doing my dharma, because Vali took Sugriva's wife, and they had a pact, that Sugriva would help find Sita, and Sri Rama would help, free Sugriva's wife from Vali. So Sri Rama, killed, standing behind a tree. So he said that, I was just doing my dharma. And, but Vali said, I'm a monkey, like your dharma would apply only to humans, but I'm a monkey. How would it apply to me? And then, then Sri Rama said, see, that is why I killed you from behind a tree, because if you were a human, I would have killed you like face to face. But since you're a monkey, that is how hunters kill, monkeys or any animal standing behind a tree. So Vali was convinced, and, he, prayed Lord Sri Rama and asked him for his blessings. And that is why, Vali, Jara, he's Vali in this pastime. And that is why he was standing behind the tree, and, he used the arrow, to Krishna's feet. I don't want to say, the other word, but I don't know if I'm able to say it properly. But, and Krishna is transcendental, but Lord Krishna wanted to show to people in materialistic world that how karma comes back. If we do bad karma to someone, it'll come back to us sometime or the other. So he just wanted to demonstrate that to people like us, in the materialistic world. That is why he made Jara do the same thing, standing behind the tree and do the same thing. That is what I heard from Amarendra Prabhu. I don't know if it's, he's really good with, with all the scriptures. So I'm thinking it would be a valid one, but I just wanted to share.
Thank you so much. Very nicely shared. Thank you. And yes, Amarendra Prabhu is a very, very scholarly, learned person. So he must have done his research and then only shared. He wouldn't just speak anything that you find on the internet. So thank you for that reference. And further reference, can be found from Amarendra Prabhu, or we can search for it among the Acharya's writings. So yes, thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. That's a very wonderful description. Okay. Anything else? Oops.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji, for sharing the reference.
Thank you. Yes.
Prabhuji, you had described why Krishna Bhagwanji allowed Kali to do all this and come back. Could you kindly explain once more? Thanks.
Sure. So that is so your question is, why does Lord allow Kali Yuga to make progress if it is full of bad qualities? Essentially, that is the question, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it is because the Lord allows, what I had said is the Lord this is the design of the material world. It goes in these cycles of the Yuga cycles, Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga, and each one is more degraded than the other. And at the end of Satyuga, it again starts off with, at the end of Kali Yuga, it again starts off with Satyuga. So we have basically many desires to enjoy in certain ways. And the yugas basically provide us with the arrangement, with the circumstantial and the infrastructural arrangement for us to fulfill our desires in a certain way. Of course, in certain way, our desires can be fulfilled even in particular species, in particular animal or plant species. But there are certain desires that may be possible to be fulfilled when certain other circumstances are there. So these are all of these are, one can ask why certain person gets a good birth, why certain person gets a bad birth, etc. These are all based on our law of karma. And the Lord provides these various species of life, these various circumstances like the various yugas, etc., to allow us to fulfill those desires that we have had. So I gave the example, like, if somebody wants to go to a casino or some nightclub or something like that, and if he's in Satyuga, it will be very hard for him to find such a place. But in Kali Yuga, you can easily find such a place. So that person, if he has those kind of desires, and if he has the karmic credits to enjoy those desires, that is also very important. You need to have the karmic credits to be able to get the sanction to buy a $500, let's say, item. You need to have $500 in your pocket. You need to have earned those $500, and then you can spend it in whichever way you want. But if you don't have that, then you won't be able to buy that. Similarly, if you don't have those credits, the Lord will not sanction, as long as it is based on the law of karma. Of course, the Lord can interfere in the scenario of his devotees, but that is a totally different scenario. So for those that have that, the Lord has created this arrangement. Okay, you can enjoy in this particular way. So that's the cycle of the yugas, for basically the demoniac people to exist and to enjoy, and then they will suffer later. Now, one thing to remember, now we also talked about the aspect how in spiritual progress, making spiritual progress is also comparatively much easier in Kali Yuga. The other part I also wanted to stress is that the Kali Yuga is very short compared to the Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is the shortest. So it is in the ratio of 1:2:3:4. If you can do your math, this is how it breaks up. So Satyuga is 4 times longer than Kali Yuga. Treta Yuga is 3 times longer. Dwapar Yuga is 2 times longer than Kali Yuga. So the arrangement, you can see the beauty of the arrangement of the Lord as well, that he allows for such a long time span of Satyuga to exist, where people can make very nice spiritual progress without the distractions of sense gratification. There are no objects of sense gratification in Satyuga. Then they start degrading, and in Kali Yuga, it is very hard not to find objects of sense gratification. You go on Facebook. In my Facebook, I don't have many friends, but I only have devotees, and that too very pakka devotees. Still, I get all these stupid kind of ads. I don't know. It's totally, I can guarantee you it's not based on my search history. I have never looked at any bad things or anything like that. Still, these pop-ups come. I'm like wondering, why are they trying to push this sense gratification onto me? Sometimes, not all of them, but some few still come. Or I was giving that example of that app the other day. And, there is just inundation. You turn your head here. It's not possible to go on the street without looking at billboards that are not promoting sense gratification and all that in Kali Yuga. So that is the nature of the Kali Yuga. And yeah, so hopefully that answers the question.
Wonderful answer. Thank you.
Prabhuji, I have a question. So could you please explain the significance behind why Lord Krishna manifested his four-handed form just before his departure? When to Arjun, Lord Krishna said that his two-handed form is the most difficult one to see, rare one to see.
Yeah, that's also a question I had actually also as I was reading, that he was displaying his four-handed form. I don't know the answer to that, and I have not read anything specific, and of course I will not speculate. So Sorry, I don't know the answer. I'll make a note of it. I'll try to find out. If not, I'll ask some other devotees and see if I can get an answer.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, I was not able to answer. That's okay. These are good questions. These are, and what I say is that if these kind of questions come up, investing our time, like, all the engineers on the call can understand one thing. If you want to understand something, engineers or scientists, best is to take a problem and try to solve it. If you just keep reading the theory, after a long time, if I give you a problem to solve, you're like, what did I read? I was just blank reading. But if you are given a problem to solve, like that, through problems, you can understand a lot of the theory and understand it very nicely. At least as engineer or as a scientist, I have been programmed in that way. So take up a question like this question, do some research, read the writings of the acharyas, read other scenarios where the Lord displayed his four-handed form. Why was that? Is there a similarity between that scenario and this? And like this, invest your time. You will, in that process, you may or may not get the answer to this question, but you will learn a lot of so many things you will learn, because Vaishnava literature is so deep and so wonderful that pick up, one loose end in your mind and start chasing, and you will enjoy. If that's what one enjoys doing, you're gonna have a blast, I'm telling you. So I do this myself, I pick up some question and then just try to go around everywhere where I can find an answer about it. And it's a blast for me, so that would be my recommendation. And then you can, share it with others. You can either write a small article, or you can give a class about it, or record your thing and put it up somewhere for others to, take advantage of the work that you have done.
Prabhuji, Jara means old age, and for everybody old age comes, and after that Mrityu comes. Is that meaning?
Of the hunter?
Yeah.
Again, no idea. I don't know if there's any correlation between Jara as the name and Jara as the meaning is old age. That's very true, that Jara means old age. There are four defects of human life: Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Birth, death, old age, and disease. These are considered to be the four defects of material body. Jara is one of them, which is old age. Nobody wants old age. Everybody wants to remain young.
Just like in the Puranjana story, it came, Jara.
Yes, absolutely. That king was old and then he died.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if there's any correlation. Okay, anything else? Very nice discussion. Thank you so much for this discussion. Okay, if nothing else, then thank you so much. We'll see you again. For those who are doing Bhagavad Gita class, we'll see you tomorrow. There is going to be a special announcement in tomorrow's Bhagavad Gita class. So for those that are participating in Bhagavad Gita class, make sure you don't miss tomorrow. It's going to be a very special announcement. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.